What if I told you that the deadliest weapon of the Vietnam War wasn't a gun, a bomb, or even a chemical agent? What if the most feared adversary wasn't a soldier, but the very ground beneath their feet? In this video, we'll explore how simple bamboo stakes and carefully concealed pits became the stuff of nightmares for American troops. We'll reveal how the Viet Cong's mastery of guerrilla warfare transformed the lush Vietnamese landscape into a labyrinth of death, where each step could trigger a trap that would maim, kill, or psychologically scar those who survived. As Private James Miller's unit pushed deeper into the heart of Vietnam's treacherous jungle, the air grew thick with an oppressive silence. The year was 1967, and the lush vegetation concealed more than just the enemy. It harbored a network of ingenious and deadly traps that would soon turn their mission into a waking nightmare. The first encounter with the Viet Cong's deadly craftsmanship came swiftly and without warning. A sickening crack echoed through the undergrowth, followed by an agonized scream. Private Thompson, the point man, had stumbled into a cleverly concealed pit. His comrades rushed forward, only to find him impaled upon a bed of sharpened bamboo stakes, his life ebbing away with each labored breath. The punji stick pit, as they would come to know it, was just the beginning of their ordeal. This deceptively simple trap consisted of a camouflaged hole in the ground, its bottom bristling with upward-pointing spikes often smeared with excrement to ensure infection. As Miller helped extract Thompson's body, the grim reality of their situation settled over the squad like a suffocating blanket. But the Viet Cong's arsenal of traps extended far beyond these rudimentary pits. As the days wore on, Miller and his fellow soldiers found themselves navigating an increasingly treacherous landscape. They encountered tripwires that, when triggered, would release swinging logs studded with metal spikes, a merciless pendulum of death that could decimate an entire squad in seconds. The jungle floor itself became a minefield of hidden dangers. Seemingly innocuous patches of ground concealed pressure-activated traps that would send sharpened bamboo shoots hurtling upwards, impaling unsuspecting victims. Even the trees overhead were not safe, as soldiers soon discovered when disturbing carefully placed branches unleashed a hail of poisoned darts. As the psychological toll mounted, Miller observed a change in his comrades. Men who had once swaggered with bravado now moved with the cautious steps of prey, their eyes constantly scanning for the slightest sign of disturbance in the environment. The jungle, once merely a backdrop to their mission, had become an active participant in their torment. The ingenuity of the Viet Cong's traps extended to psychological warfare as well. Fake signs and markings led unwary soldiers into deadly ambushes or minefields. The constant state of hypervigilance began to wear on even the most hardened veterans, as every rustling leaf or snapping twig became a potential harbinger of doom. As night fell, the darkness brought no respite. The Viet Cong excelled in nocturnal operations, and their traps were often designed to be even more effective after sunset. Soldiers on night patrol lived in constant fear of stumbling into hidden pits or triggering silent, deadly mechanisms in the gloom. As darkness enveloped the jungle, Private Miller's squad found themselves plunged into a world where every shadow concealed a potential executioner. The oppressive silence, punctuated only by the occasional rustle of leaves or distant animal cry, seemed to pulse with unseen threats. The men, still reeling from their earlier encounters with the Viet Cong's deadly arsenal, moved with exaggerated caution through the inky blackness. Suddenly, A sharp twang rent the air, followed by a sickening thud and a strangled cry. Sergeant Hawkins, a seasoned veteran who had survived 3 tours, crumpled to the ground, his chest impaled by a bamboo spear. The squad froze in horror as they realized they had stumbled into a new nightmare: the dreaded bamboo whip trap. This simple yet lethal device had transformed the very trees into instruments of death. As the soldiers struggled to aid their fallen leader, the true insidiousness of the trap became apparent. The slightest movement risked triggering more hidden whips, each capable of delivering a killing blow. Miller watched helplessly as the life drained from Hawkins' eyes. The sergeant's final words, a barely audible warning: "They're everywhere. Nowhere is safe." The bamboo whip trap, while less common than some of the Viet Cong's other devices, quickly earned a reputation as one of the most feared weapons in their arsenal. Its silent and rapid action made it nearly impossible for soldiers to defend against or anticipate. The trap utilized sharpened bamboo spikes attached to a long pole, which, when triggered by a tripwire, would snap back with devastating force, launching the spikes at high speed towards its unsuspecting victims. The psychological impact of these traps was immense. Every step became a potential last, every moment pregnant with the possibility of sudden, violent death. The constant vigilance required to navigate this treacherous landscape took a heavy toll on the soldiers' mental state, eroding their resolve and transforming the very nature of the conflict. To compound the horror, the Viet Cong often smeared the spikes of these traps with harmful substances, such as feces or venom. This cruel innovation increased the risk of infection and complicated recovery for those fortunate enough to survive the initial impact. The knowledge that even a non-fatal wound could lead to a slow, agonizing death only heightened the soldiers' fear and desperation. One soldier, Private James O'Neill, recounted a harrowing experience that illustrated the sudden and brutal nature of these hidden dangers. "I didn't even see the wire until it was too late," he recalled, his voice trembling with memory. "Suddenly, I felt an intense pain in my leg, and I looked down to see a metal hook embedded deep in my calf." O'Neill's story was just one of many, each serving a grim reminder of the invisible threats that lurked in the jungle's shadows. As dawn broke over the Vietnamese jungle, casting long shadows that seemed to writhe and twist like serpents, Private Miller and his beleaguered squad found themselves facing a new day that promised only fresh horrors. The humid air hung heavy with the scent of danger, and the soldiers' nerves were frayed to the breaking point after the loss of Sergeant Hawkins. Little did they know that nature itself was about to bare its venomous fangs in a display of cruelty that would surpass even their darkest nightmares. The squad trudged through a seemingly innocuous clearing, their eyes darting from tree to tree, searching for the telltale signs of Viet Cong traps. Suddenly, a blood-curdling shriek erupted from the rear, shattering the eerie silence of the jungle. Private Rodriguez, bringing up the tail of the formation, had stepped into what appeared to be a simple hole in the ground. But as Miller and the others rushed to aid their comrade, they recoiled in horror at the sight before them. Rodriguez's leg was ensnared in a mass of writhing, hissing forms, a nest of bamboo pit vipers, their venom already coursing through his veins. The Viet Cong had weaponized nature itself, turning one of Vietnam's deadliest serpents into yet another tool of terror. These vipers, known for their potent venom, had been strategically placed to attack unsuspecting soldiers, a tactic that would haunt the dreams of those who survived to tell the tale. As Rodriguez's life ebbed away, his body racked by convulsions, the squad watched helplessly. The bamboo pit vipers, nicknamed three-step snakes by those who knew their lethal reputation, had lived up to their grim moniker. Within minutes, Rodriguez's entire body went numb and he could barely move, mirroring the experience of U.S. Marine Corporal John Harker, who had faced a similar fate. Harker's words echoed in Miller's mind. I felt a sharp sting on my arm and saw the snake slither away. Within minutes, my entire arm went numb and I could barely move. This encounter with the snake pit trap shattered what little remained of the squad's morale. The very ground beneath their feet had become an extension of the enemy's will, a living weapon waiting to strike. As they moved on, leaving Rodriguez's body behind, Miller couldn't shake the image of those serpentine coils. Every rustling leaf, every shifting shadow now held the potential for a swift and agonizing death. The psychological toll of this new threat was immediate and devastating. The soldiers, already on edge from the mechanical traps they had encountered, now faced an enemy that could slither silently through the underbrush, strike without warning, and disappear just as quickly. The Viet Cong's use of venomous snakes as weapons added a new dimension of psychological terror to the conflict, one that would haunt American troops throughout the war. As the squad pushed deeper into the jungle, they learned of other incidents that only heightened their fear. Reports filtered through of soldiers awakening to find deadly serpents in their sleeping areas, a nightmarish tactic employed by the Viet Cong to ensure that even rest offered no respite from the constant threat of death. The image of a young soldier jolted awake by the cold scales of a bamboo pit viper sliding across his chest became a shared nightmare among the troops. As the specter of venomous serpents faded into the background, a new horror emerged from the very earth itself. The Viet Cong had woven a web of underground passages so intricate and deadly that it would push American soldiers to the brink of sanity. Private Miller's squad, their nerves already frayed from weeks of jungle warfare, received orders that sent a chill through their ranks. Investigate and clear a suspected tunnel complex. The Chuchi tunnels, a labyrinthine network spanning over 250 kilometers, stood as a testament to the Viet Cong's ingenuity and determination. These were no mere foxholes or simple hiding spots. They were a subterranean city, complete with living quarters, storage spaces, and even hospitals for guerrilla fighters. The complexity of this underground world was matched only by its capacity for concealment. Secret entrances disguised as innocuous termite mounds or hidden beneath the floors of seemingly abandoned homes allowed the Viet Cong to vanish and reappear at will, striking fear into the hearts of American forces. As Miller volunteered to become a tunnel rat, the gravity of his decision weighed heavily upon him. Armed with nothing more than a flashlight and a pistol, he prepared to descend into a realm where darkness reigned supreme and death lurked around every corner. The words of Sergeant Samuel Orozco, a veteran tunnel rat, echoed in his mind. You never knew what was waiting for you around the next bend, a tripwire, a snake, or maybe even a Viet Cong soldier. It was a grim reminder that uncertainty itself was a weapon in this underground war. Squeezing through the narrow entrance, Miller felt the earth swallow him whole. The air, thick with the stench of decay and fear, seemed to press in from all sides. Each breath was a struggle, not just against the oppressive atmosphere, but against the rising tide of panic threatening to overwhelm him. In the suffocating darkness, Miller's senses strained to their limits, desperately seeking any sign of the dangers that surely lay ahead. The Viet Cong had transformed these tunnels into a nightmarish gauntlet. Tripwires connected to explosives waited silently for an unsuspecting victim. Punji stick pits, their sharpened bamboo points smeared with excrement, promised a slow and agonizing death. Even nature itself had been weaponized with snake pits strategically placed to unleash venomous terror upon intruders. Every step, every movement could trigger a cascade of lethal consequences. As Miller inched forward, his hand suddenly brushed against a thin wire stretching across the passage. Time seemed to freeze as the realization struck him. A tripwire. In that moment of paralyzing fear, his mind raced through a catalog of horrors. Would it trigger a grenade, a shotgun trap, or something even more insidious that the Viet Cong had devised in their endless quest to sow terror?